In today's episode, I'm joined by a senior marketing strategist who has a long history at Intel as an adjunct professor, and somewhere in between all of that, wrote 3 books. Pam is also a really well-known speaker on the marketing circuit, so you may have heard her name in the past. Together, we'll talk about all things sales enablement and help get you prepared for your 2024 plans. We'll talk about things like content development, market segmentation, and just some quick wins on how you can provide qualified leads to sales and add more value than just reporting on how many leads filled out a form or attended an event. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, TREW Marketing. TREW is a full-service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit TREWmarketing.com. And now, on with our podcast. Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today by Pam Didner, and together we are going to talk all things sales enablement. So welcome to the show, Pam.
Thank you so much for having me. Really grateful to be here.
I was so excited. I had a great time looking through your LinkedIn profile at all the different things you've done in your career. I'm curious, Pam.
Sure.
Intel Inside, were you there at Intel during that big campaign?
No, I was not, unfortunately, because, I've been around for a long time. So if people talking about old generation of processors and people probably don't know that well. So, a lot of people will know the sound dun, 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 dun.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of like the sound that's associated with the Intel master brand. And also Intel Inside, that was created before my time, unfortunately.
Hey, but you got to ride the wave of that.
I rode the wave, definitely. And we kind of took that and actually amplified that for not just our master brand, and also on the consumer side and on the enterprise side. So they did a fantastic job. I cannot take credit for any of that stuff.
Well, that's okay. You did plenty of other things at Intel. You were there almost 15 years. And wow. And so supply chain. So you started on that side of the house. And then what led you into marketing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So initially, like way even before supply chain, I was actually a CPA. I was accountant, and I work in accounting firm, so I actually have accounting background. And then I joined Intel on the finance side, and then eventually moved to operations, product team, and also on the factory. They call the factory, which is I was on the supply chain and also on the manufacturing floor. There were a period of time I'm actually like sorting like defective components.
No.
Oh no, I was on the floor sorting the parts.
Just what you went to college for, right? Well, you got
exactly, sitting there sorting the different components. Anyway, so way back, I would say in the 80s and 90s and even late 90s and the early 2000s, the tech company actually encouraged people to move around. They want their employees to be well-rounded. And I was very fortunate to join a company that encouraged employees to be well-rounded. Now it's almost impossible. Like if you don't have a marketing background or if you don't have a marketing experience, it's almost impossible to get into a marketing field, for example. If you don't have a certain kind of discipline, it's very hard to get into that specific position.
Yeah.
So, but way back then, the company encouraged people to move around. So even though I had a finance and accounting degree, I was doing operation for a little while. I was supporting the product team for a little while. I was writing a content. I was doing event operations. It's basically the kind of like a twist of fate, if you will, to move into the marketing was one of the managers that I know very, very well and worked together for a long time, went to the event side of the marketing. And then he asked me if I'm interested to do event operation. I was like, operation, yeah, sure, no problem. So that's how I got started to join the dark side marketing. It's like event operation, event marketing. And from there, I'm doing a lot of strategy work right after that.
No, Pam, I call sales the dark side. I think you have it all wrong here. No.
I like that. I like that.
Well, you'll love this. So my first job in technology was in the 90s in an events role as well. And what I love about events is it's really a integrated marketing microcosm, right?
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Each event has its own campaign associated with it.
Yeah.
And I love that there's a beginning and an end and a measurable outcome.
Right, exactly. And then once you are done, you are done. Then you will move on to something else. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Very good. Well, after Intel, then I see all sorts of interesting things. When I look at your profile, you've written 3 books. You've been an adjunct professor at multiple universities, and you're an independent consultant and a speaker that is so well known. I just saw you at Content Marketing World. You did a fantastic job. So you stay pretty busy.
So kind. Well, I would say perception is not reality. Well, it's kind of depending on kind of like the time frame, if you will. There was certain time I was very busy, and there was certain time I was not. And I don't know about you, Wendy. I just want to be very transparent. And we are in Q4 of 2023. I always get business from tech segment, but due to a massive layoff in the tech segments, the business has been slow. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then because the business is slow, then I have some time. So I decided to divert my attention. I started writing fictional novel. I know it's kind of stupid, but whatever.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, yeah, chick flick. That's the only thing I like is a chick flick.
Oh, I can't wait to check out your books. That sounds way more fun than a business book.
Well, I do. There's one thing I want to say very quickly is, Wendy, like a lot of people say storytelling, and storytelling and the marketing. And on the B2B side, it's really hard to make that connection, like between, say, like a real like dramatic storytelling as a part of B2B campaigns. And so the writing of a story or the fictional novel actually helped me understand in terms of, there are things I need to do a little bit differently, especially on the B2B side, in terms of how to structure the content and how to build the little bit of a climax, if you will.
Yeah, the arc of the story.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. And if those listening aren't familiar with that concept, that's a great thing to go study. I mean, it's really, as a high level concept, easy to grasp in a 2-minute blog post. But that buildup of what is the problem and who will be the hero, and, how does this all come to a head? So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Well, before we jump into our topic today on sales enablement, I'm curious. Something struck me when I was looking again through all your experience. I saw your title is in one of the roles you had at Intel is, integrated marketing strategist, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And I remember back when I first started TREW Marketing, which was 15 years ago, and we were like, okay, we're an integrated agency. And that was so just baked into my brain as integrated is the way of doing things. And I feel like that word integrated sort of fell off, right? Other things replaced it. And we talked about inbound and outbound and whatever it is today. But I'm curious of your thoughts on the idea of integrated and how that's evolved since you held that position at Intel to today.
So great question. So I want to define that a little bit, especially the definition of integrated marketing. And there's an internal kind of like I would say scope versus what integrated marketing means as like, okay, integrated marketing in the industry term. All right.
Got you.
So when I was at Intel, when we do the integrated marketing, it's more or less there's one person kind of need to put an overall global strategy together, because Intel actually have a presence in many, many countries, and we have a geo, which is a different continents. We have a geo marketing. We also have a country marketing. And then on top of it, we have a corporate marketing. So and that's not talking about partner marketing that we do with a partner marketing team. That's not talking about the field marketing inside the sales organization. So there's a many marketing roles within Intel, right? Depending on who you talk to. And the integrated marketing in the internal sense is really like, okay, somebody needs to put a marketing plan together, and it's more product specific, because at the end of the day, we are selling products, right? So we want to sell the product. So based on the product we're going to sell for next year, based on the roadmap, what would be the marketing plan will look like to either launch the product or continue to sell this product? There got to be some sort of marketing plan, and the marketing plan need to be more integrated, that encompasses many elements, if you will. So that's the internal sense of integrated marketing, which is build kind of like a marketing plan, but not too detailed, but provide enough campaign guidance so the geographies at the different continents and also the country can take the information and then build their campaigns in detail.
I still see just varying levels of sophistication, varying levels of interaction, or just people are uncertain, where they stand when it comes to their sales enablement programs. Like, even if they're babies or they're far along, there seems to be a lot of uneasiness with that side of it still. So when you talk to content marketing world, you had this wonderful presentation. You had advice for everyone from I'm just starting out to I need to get better. So I want to start with probably an obvious question, but I would love to hear how you answer it, which is, why is sales enablement important? Why are we talking about this today?
Great question. So I'm a B2B marketer. And so if you are on the B2B side of things, the purchasing cycle of any product tend to be longer. And what is B2B? B2B is selling products to businesses. Even though you sell to a decision makers with that company, you still sell to businesses. It's not you are selling to consumer. So the consumer side is transactional, right? Like you buy it, you don't buy it. But on the purchasing cycle on the B2B side is people takes time to make that decision. And a lot of time is because the product is a little bit more complicated complex compared with the consumer-centric product. And because the product is a little bit complicated on the B2B side, not that salespeople can completely comprehend the product itself. Okay, so they need content, for example, to support them in terms of how they can sell better. Or sometimes they need somebody to train them, and in terms of a talking point, so they can sell better. Or sometimes they need to understand the product so much better in order to sell. So initially, the sales enablement, the term actually, if I'm not mistaken, there's no formal literature, but based on what I have found on internet, and let's assume internet is a reliable source, it's actually coming from IBM back in the 1980s. So what were IBM selling at that time? Mainframe. So you are selling this big mainframe to big enterprises and also government. And this is an enclosed machine. And everybody will be looking at that and say, okay, what does this machine do?
And it's not like you can carry that machine into a sales visit either.
Exactly.
So there's that barrier as well.
You need to train the salespeople to understand this mainframe, the benefit of it. And also, you need to help the salespeople to understand and also to operate, do a little demo, or even to know what to say and when. So for longest time, the sales enablement is really sales onboarding and sales training. It's enable the salespeople to do their jobs better because the products are complicated and difficult to articulate.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that most of the focus then was product managers training the sales force. And that was sort of the extent
or
the main
the sales operation or sales, and they have a sales training team that training the sales people initially.
Sure.
So it's the sales onboarding, sales training. But over time, supporting sales become a whole lot more, how should I say, expansive. It's not you just train salespeople anymore and they can sell. Sometimes they need content. Sometimes they need advice in terms of, okay, the marketing campaigns need to support them a little bit, which is ABM, right? Account-based marketing. Account-based marketing doesn't mean it's account-based selling. It's basically account-based marketing complement account-specific type of selling activities.
Sure.
I'm saying. Yeah. So now all of a sudden, especially in the digital world, that the content is fragmented. People can get information everywhere. And a lot of times sales and marketing don't feel that they have a control of their audience, because a lot of time audience sometimes are way more educated than our salespeople in terms of the product, because they do their homework. So now all of a sudden, salespeople cannot do sales alone. They need support. They need marketing support. They need tech support. They also need content support. They need a lot of support, right? So that's the evolution of a sales enablement. It's enable sales that they can do their jobs better. And when I'm talking about sales enablement is how can we enable our salespeople? So with anything that we have, under our sleeves and to help. Yeah.
Great. I love what you said about these buyers are so sophisticated. They're resourceful. We have, and I don't know if you've run across it. We do an annual research study called State of Marketing to Engineers. And in it, we see that these technical buyers are more likely to go 10 pages deep in Google rather than stop at page 1. And that's with the snippets and the quick questions, and on all of that. So they're digging deep, they're studying, and you're right. By the time they interact with sales, they're quite knowledgeable.
They're quite knowledgeable. And they can sometimes question the sales and challenge our sales team. So the sales team needs to be prepared.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you are a marketer and, obviously we're in this last, period of the year before we roll into 2024. So where would you advise that marketers start to evaluate their current state? What are some things they might do?
That's actually a very good question. The way I see in terms of evaluation of your current state, I assume we can scope it between, say, sales and marketing alignment, is you probably can start interviewing your salespeople. Try to understand what they need, what their challenges are, what some of their pain points. All right, so that's one. And then you can also look into what you are doing right now, supporting them, right? So if you interview them, you kind of can identify their gaps. They're going to tell you, oh, we don't have that. Oh, we don't have this. Oh my God, I need better support on this and that. You know what? They go on and on, and you're going to get a laundry list. It's like you open the Pandora's box, boom, shouldn't I have asked? I get that. And but that doesn't mean you have to do everything they ask. You should prioritize. You should look at some of the challenges or some of their asks, and then you can determine what you can do and you cannot. That's the most important thing, right? And then you prioritize their asks, and then you should look at what you are doing right now. There has got to be something you're doing right now that's not necessarily providing a lot of value add. Right? So maybe that's something you should stop. But there are something that you are doing very well. For example, you share the content with them on a regular basis. You're attending their sales call, and they love that you bring marketing side of information to them. So then continue that. So I would do an interview with a different level of a sales team, from the VP of sales down to, AE and also inside and outside sales team. Understand their needs and also look at what you are doing. And once you understand what you are doing, you understand what your needs are, and you prioritize, then all of a sudden it will become very clear in terms of what you need to do for Plan 2024.
Right. Because it could be operational improvements. It could be new types of content, strengthening your value proposition. Like, I see what you mean. It's Pandora's box. Like,
that's right. And don't get overwhelmed. I mean, a lot of marketers was like, I don't want to ask them. They're going to give me like 500 things to do. Yeah, of course, they are going to do that. That's sales, right? But that doesn't mean you have to do every single one of them. Right? So it's your job to prioritize and then determine what you want to do, and then go back to them and tell them what you will do and won't do.
Yeah. Tell me about some of the mistakes that you've seen marketers make. It sounds like one is feeling overwhelmed or saying yes to things that you can't possibly get to. What are some other things that you see maybe routinely happen that you'd reprimand?
So I remember when I started supporting sales, and one of my managers told me one thing I remember vividly, and then it was like, support your salespeople, but don't do their jobs. So sales have the tendency of passing a lot of stuff for you to do, and nothing against that. Honestly, they are very, very busy. They should always be focusing on, calling people and try to close the deals. You need to have a clear understanding what you will do and what you won't do. You need to understand your boundary and also your job scope. There are certain things, it's their job. And then you have to know what is yours and what is theirs. Because when you started supporting sales, you will know there's a slippery slope. Yeah, for example, are you going to create presentations for them? Well, is that treated as part of content? Yeah, it is in a way. Is it your job to create that presentation for them? I don't know, subject to discussion. But if you actually create a sales presentation with a rut and you have a template, okay, that can be your job. Or you create a sales deck with the 100 slides, all the things you can think of they should pull and customize their deck. Maybe your job is create templates and create a deck that with all the information, and it's their job to pick and choose what they want to use, right? So you have to understand what you will do and what you won't do. And like I said, your job to support them, but not do their job.
Yeah.
Not do their job, right? So what is that? So from my perspective, I think it's very important for all the marketers to understand what that is. And also, it's okay to say no. And then say it nicely, diplomatically, but no.
It's important, right? In any request to marketing, I think that is an issue that marketers sometimes have. And I like putting numbers to things, whether it's, if you think about your resource allocation, X% is going to be dedicated to sales enablement. So let's figure out how many hours that is or what that budget is. And within that, prioritize those projects, things like that, or
that
a
can be
piece
an
of each
option to
campaign.
do.
Yeah. One of the things that I recall you talking about in your presentation that stuck with me, so feedback.
Sure.
That was great. Besides the fun videos from the Glenn. Yes.
Rose. Is it Glenn?
See, now I messed you up.
Glenn Rose.
There you go. I love it. Who doesn't love that video? Is you talked about that sometimes you need to make big organizational improvements to sales enablement. So I can imagine this being lead scoring or putting in a learning management system or some sort of big project, but at the same time, it's important to have quick wins to build trust. Could you speak more to that?
Yes. So the couple things I share at the presentation, I think I build a workflow, and the example I talk about is probably webinar. Like as a marketer, and many companies or the marketers in the many companies that they have webinar series or they attend events, right? And they work with the sales team, they put a big events out the trade show together. And then when trade show is over, then everybody send out a thank you note to the attendees or whatever, and then nothing being followed up. The webinar is the same thing, right? When a webinar is over and the marketing manager will send out thank you note, and then they move on to a next webinar. But the attendee list, and it's kind of like a gray area, like who is going to vet it and who is going to correlate that information with the CRM and to take it down to a next level that the salespeople can use. For example, in general, and let's all be honest, it's a B2B. And when you do the webinar on the B2B side of things, the number of attendees, especially you do your webinar on a regular basis, the number of attendees is not going to be that big. That's all, just be very honest. It's not like, okay, it's going to be a 1,000 attendees. Most of the time, it's probably like 100 or 200, and then it's a manageable size. So out of that 100 or 200 of attendees, then you can think about that, okay, can I correlate this information with the CRM? If you do that, there's a 3 possibility. It's existing name in existing accounts, new name from existing account, new names from a new accounts, right? All of a sudden, you are doing segmentation on behalf of sales. If it's existing name from existing account, okay, should you let your salespeople know about that they attended the webinar? Maybe they should reach out. If it's a new name from existing account, well, can you do cross sales and sales? You already own this specific existing account, can you do something about it? The new names from new account, well, if this is some strategic accounts that we are going after, I don't know, in the past 2 years. So all of a sudden, you have the information that you can drive the conversation with the salespeople, even with the inside sales or PR, right? Now you make that information valuable to them. Before, you can just give them a list of attendees and they have to sort it out. But you do that work, all of a sudden you create 3 segments. The 3 segment is easy for salespeople to understand, right? It's by accounts.
Absolutely. Easy.
So that is what I call a low-hanging fruit. If you don't know how to do correlation on CRM, I'm not asking you to do it. Can you find somebody inside your team or in your organization to do that for you? That require a little work. Or can you get somebody who knows Excel file well, can import that information to CRM and kind of do the correlation? You don't have to do it yourself, but the key is find someone else to do it.
Right. And if you think about taking it isn't that much extra effort, right? Once you figure out how to pull
once you figured out how to do it,
right.
But the first time is hard. Yeah.
But the outcome now, the success isn't, oh, we had 200 attendees and like you said, you're moving on to the next thing and it's a faceless 200. But now what is the likelihood that we'll get business out of this webinar? Well, it just went up exponentially when you're treating these leads in this targeted manner. So it's just for a little bit more work. And maybe that comes back to having shared goals or metrics and not just marketing has volume leads and sales has whatever, you know.
Right. I personally think the volume lead, which is that drive out behavior to be more quantity focused rather than quality focused. So any kind of metrics you set up will dictate marketers' behavior. So if your job is driving volume, then marketing just going to give you volume.
Yeah.
But if you are telling marketers, I want high quality leads, and have a conversation with the marketer in terms of what the definition of a high quality leads, and then give marketers some guidance in terms of what needs to be done. And a lot of time, I hate saying this, marketers will guess what salespeople want. So from my perspective, the salespeople need to provide that input, if you will, and to actually share with the marketers in terms of what's the definition of high quality leads. I mean, you can give marketers, say 20 ideal accounts, the company names. They can even do a lookalike, right? They can go to Zoom Info. They can go to other third-party platform to do the lookalike of your ideal customers. But the thing is, you need to provide that information first, or the marketing needs to be proactively asking for that information, right? So that can be reached and communicated, then things happen.
Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, on the edge of my seat on this subject, because now with AI technology being baked into our existing CRMs, we have
Yeah.
now, smart ways of looking at behavior of previous customers and predicting, which
User
customers are more
behavior.
likely to close and
Yeah.
all of that fun stuff that's somewhat here and somewhat still coming. I feel like it still has a little ways to go with what I've seen. What's your view on that, Pam?
So
Yeah.
the accuracy or even conversion level or prediction is all over the place.
Mm,
So you have to understand, even though it's a closed system, they still have to learn, right? They still have to learn
yes.
about your
Yes.
lookalike customers. They still have to learn about your purchasing cycle. They still have to learn about everything that's going on in a very complex CRM system that has all the fragmented data.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back that you need to have a point of view. And also, if the AI does predict something or have a certain kind of recommendation, you
Mhm.
have to pause and say, does this make sense? Right. So yeah,
Absolutely.
you have like sometimes like that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. That really doesn't make any sense. And then talk to different people to validate. You have to trust your human being sometimes. So, but anyway, I know it's hard. It's very hard.
No, it's just I think it's such a good reminder to, and I think marketers get it, but I think that some of the business executives, I've been to some executive conferences recently and several ones, and it's sort of being presented as this easy button, right? This shortcut. Oh, you can write all your web content with AI or whatever. And we marketers know better. So
You can. Yeah. I
this
mean, they are trying
constant
to say it
reminder.
this. Yeah. No, anything AI writes, treat that as a first draft. Somebody has to vet it. It's not like, okay, AI produces something and then immediately you upload it into the website. You have to do some fact checking. You have to make sure the tone is on brand. You have to make sure that even the customers' names are spelled correctly. And so there's many things that you have to do to check it. See that as a first draft. It's not something, it's not final draft. That's all
No.
be very honest
Yeah.
as of today. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, setting AI aside, are there other sales enablement trends that you see for 2024?
Great question. I think AI is definitely a very hot topic. I think the extension of that is a personalization.
Ah,
Uh, but again, the personalization part of it, if you have a huge customer database and then you want to run a very tailored campaigns, and a lot of time you cannot do that alone. You need machine or a process or something to actually help you out. And more and more I guess salespeople will look at marketing and basically said, I need support in a specific accounts, or I need help to do this type of content to target for these segment of customers.
mhm.
And I personally think more and more marketing asks or the sales ask of a marketing really needs to be tailored. But
Mhm.
if you do a lot of customization, then the challenge is very hard to scale. You know what I'm saying?
Sure is. Yeah.
So that would be a dilemma from my perspective. A lot of marketers will encounter. And
Mhm.
it's how to balance that. How do I scale? But at the same time, how do I personalize to
And
support
have the
sales?
personalization be accurate or accurate enough, and I think we've all received some of these messages that you could tell were
Like, it's a
AI,
little,
right? It was
yeah,
just a
it's a
little
little
off. Like,
off. Yeah.
yeah, like it'll reference where I graduated from, Texas A&M, but it'll bring out some very obscure thing about the
Yeah.
university, right? For
And I
example.
was like,
Yeah.
why are you mentioning when I graduated? That was years ago. Okay. That was
Yeah.
just years ago. That's not go there. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like I just like graduated 5 years ago and then you can bring that up. That's completely irrelevant. But I hear
Right.
So again, it's like when you do the personalization using algorithm, how do you find that balance? How do you make it relevant? I think everybody, by the way, everybody struggles with that. If you are listening and you feel like, oh my God, am I the only one? No, you are not. We all struggle with that. Just be okay with that.
Okay. I have two more for you on trends. Video. So like salespeople creating videos or using video. What do you think on that for 2024?
I love it. But my question to a salespeople is tailored to your strength. All right, some people, they are pretty good. Okay, well, let me take that back. I work with salespeople for a long period of time. Okay, if you put a salesperson in front of another real person, my God, they can get on. They can talk. They know what to say. Seriously, like almost every single salespeople I work with, you just put them in front of another real person. They can start a conversation, no problem. But a lot of salespeople, when you put them in front of a camera, no, they no longer themselves. They become very rigid. They become really like, I need to be very proper, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Even you tell them you don't have to, they kind of like, no, I need to, So I always love when salespeople start using video. But if you are not comfortable about that, then don't do it. Okay. You still do follow what works for you. But if you are comfortable about that, great, knock yourself out. But if you want to train yourself to be comfortable about that, my recommendation is, when one recording that you do it many times. Do it many times until like you feel like, okay, this is one I want to share.
Yeah.
This is very important, right? It's kind of like acting, right? How many times like Tom Cruise, they have to jump off the cliff, like sometimes they have to do that several times, right, to get the right and the perfect shot. So imagine you are Tom Cruise.
And just keep at it. Keep trying.
Keep at it. That's right.
Very good. Well, I guess my last question for you is, what parting advice do you have to the marketers listening? We're going into we'll call it volatile times in the economy, and the manufacturing data is all over the place. It's shaky times. Sales has got to be panicking a little bit, especially those that are carrying big commissions or, very risk averse. So what advice do you have for that marketer that wants to help sales and, going into this economy? What would you say to them?
So one thing I tell all the marketers and the B2B marketers, good chunk of them are introverts, me included. Like if you think, no, I'm an introvert. All right. Like I will go on party, but I also need downtime. Like a downtime, like, oh my God, I need to like calm myself down. I don't want to talk to anybody, And so I can be, I'm like, I'm a 100% introvert in many ways. And a lot of B2B marketers are, okay? If you are not, good for you, right? But if you are introvert, a lot of time when you are supporting sales and you are not getting like a recognition, like you work so hard supporting them and they will like just take you for granted, right? And then you're like, I don't understand. I'm doing everything I can, but I'm just not getting any thank you. Okay. So it's okay to tell them that, hey, you know what? You're doing a lot of things to help them. Remind them it's okay to do that. You don't have to like, oh my God, I better not say anything. No, don't do that. When it's okay to showcase like everything you do, because people tend to take marketing for granted. Mm-hmm. And if they do that, you need to kind of like, it's okay to remind them. That's number one. I want to tell everybody. It's okay to remind everybody like what you do. Number two, you are not alone. Like when you are so down, like, it's like nothing works. You send out a demand gen, it's like, okay, the opening rate is a pitiful 5%. And you created the content for the sales and sales kick that back. And it's like, nothing you do actually works. And you're like, I cannot do this anymore. I just want to let you know, you are not alone. We all have moments like that. We all do. Trust me. I cried many times. I am not kidding. So just want to make sure you are not alone. Yeah. Okay. If you really want to talk about it, send me a quick email and we can do a therapy session.
Well, speaking of, where can people reach you and learn more about everything that you have going on?
Very good. I'm actually at every single channel, including TikTok. I launched my TikTok on November 1st.
Oh, congratulations.
I don't talk about the B2B marketing. I talk about like other stuff in my life. And I call myself late bloomer. Like everything I do tend to be so much later than anybody else. Like I'm trying to write a novel. Like everybody's already have like several books and have done that like years ago. And here I am like, you know what? I'm going to write my little novel. So I launched my TikTok, and if you're interested, check it out. And you can reach out to me in almost every single social media channel. And I have a pamdidner.com website. And like I said, if you have any questions related to B2B marketing, you need someone to speak at your events or whatnot, you know, I'm here.
Okay. And that's Pam Didner with Didner. So I want to make sure people know how that's spelled. Well, good. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I really enjoyed speaking with you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit TREWMarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.